So today we're going to answer the question of glossy versus matte, because I have seen it come up a few times, and the question is simple. Is the glossy finish of the S90D better than the matte finish of the S95F, flagship, all that good stuff? Because apparently the blacks can be raised and all this stuff when light hits it directly. So we're going to shine light directly at both. We're going to be showing you it with movie kind of content, with a bunch of varying different kind of content, so that you can see how the coding will play a role in helping you, again, decide what TV ultimately is better for your needs and your preference. Now, again, I'm going to start off, again, like this, low light, just because this is the best way to see pretty much everything, and then we're going to kind of progress it from there, okay? So the first thing, I don't notice any issue right now. Obviously, if we're talking about like comparatively between these two pictures, again, they both are good looking pictures with my settings after work. But when I look at detail and clarity, the Samsung S90D is going to be the winner, if that's something that you were concerned about or had a question about. The better TV picture quality wise is the S90D. The brighter TV is going to be the S95F. There you go. Now, how you determine which one you buy will literally boil down to what your use case is. So right now, this is what it looks like when we just have regular lighting, okay? So what I'll do now is I'll actually go and get a light right out of the back here, just so you guys can kind of see what it does, okay? And this is going to help you in terms of figuring out what is going to do what, okay? So I've got my little light here, and I'll be able to switch through varying color temperatures with this light, so that's going to be useful. Okay, so we're going to turn our light on, okay, and this is going to be basically directly at the television itself. Right? So if you shine a light directly at the television, let's go specifically to the 95F, and we go to the S90D, you can clearly see shining light directly on TVs regardless does not have a positive impact on it, right? Especially bright lights. And I mean bright lights. See, like that bright, okay? It's a bright light, okay? And if we shine a bright light, which I don't know anyone's home situation that would permit for something that bright, but if you do that, they both kind of lose a little bit in the way of contrast and visibility. Now, shockingly and surprisingly though, I don't notice as much of the glaring effect on the S95F as I do on the S90D, which is crazy because, you'd think glossy. It just gets more hazy, like if you really look carefully, versus the S95F, where there's like literally virtually no change. Look, you can probably even see it in real time. Look, I'm over here on the S95F, right over here, okay? And when I swap it, I'll try to see if I can hold my hand down lower so you can see what I'm doing here, okay? S95, okay? And then I'm gonna swap over to the S90D. And you look at this cheek, the cheek right here will get hazy, okay? And then I move it away, and then it darkens back up again versus that haze from that light. So that's the first thing to kind of keep in mind, okay? Now, instead of just using a light that's kind of unrealistic, what I'll do is I'll toggle between something more realistic, which I think more of you have in your room, versus a dead-on light that's like a studio light that just, come on, nobody's gonna use that. We're gonna use an overhead light, okay? So I'm gonna go ahead and turn on a light from literally a fan. Something I think everybody does in a room environment, and that's what it would look like, okay? So we're gonna go to the next image, and again, I still see a ton of color and detail and contrast on the S90D. We now have a light on in the room, and it looks amazing. We have an overhead fan light, nothing crazy. I think everybody on planet Earth that has a home has one of these in their home, okay? At least if you have a home that has a fan. It's very basic, very common. I'm not trying to put people down that don't have that, but you know what I'm saying. It's a very common thing, okay? Especially here in the US. So again, when you look at it, you can clearly see the details. You can clearly see the color. And you can see the S90F lacks in contrast. Now, some might ask, well, is that lack of contrast because the light's on in the room? Turn off the light in the room, and the answer is no. The S90D still holds substantial levels of three-dimensional levels of contrast, clarity, and all that other stuff. Now, in one of my videos that I did post, I did see a few people saying that, the image to the left is just cartoonish, oversaturated. I mean, these people This isn't like me talking crap to people. It's more so just me showing you who might have seen that and might have said, well, is it wrong? Is it inaccurate? I'm going to show you what Filmmaker mode looks like again, because I don't think I've shown that in SDR while recording in HDR so that you could see everything. This is what it looks like when I use a high dynamic range format like HDR to show you. Which I don't like to do, by the way, because it's massive, massive file work, okay? And it takes a long time. It'll take me upwards of 2-3 hours to render this video, because that's just what HDR is. It's a very, very power-hungry type of thing, which I don't like working with it. I don't know many people that do. But for the sake of giving you the maximum quality my camera can output, here we are in HDR, showing you the maximum dynamic range my camera can handle, and you are seeing it clearly. That's what my settings look like, and this is what Filmmaker mode calibrated looks like out of the box. And just so you can see I'm not lying to you, because people love to lie on the internet, but people lie, facts don't. And a fact is, if I go down to the bottom here, and I go ahead and hit reset, and I say reset, it's reset now. That's a fact, right? If I back out, we can notice a couple different things. One, blacks are actually raised, like the black bars look gray. Don't know how well you're going to see that on YouTube, but I will raise my camera sensitivity to light, aka ISO, okay? And we're just going to raise it up. And you can see it now. It's actually gray like that, and like on my end. Maybe not as intense, maybe like a hair lower like that. But that's what I'm looking at. It's gray. It's literally gray. I don't know how they've made a QD OLED look like an IPS, and that's inky jet black. It's truly off, and that's not. I don't know what kind of problem that is, but that really is one of those things that bug me. Now again, my camera ISO has to be at a lower level so I'm not clipping and you can see all the details, but make no mistake that black bar is gray, not black at all, as you just saw. Now, we saw it with the light overhead and answered people's question contrast-wise, is it better? It doesn't make a difference whether you have a light on or off. Again, light on. This is an overhead light, so I mean you can try to see if the contrast is better. And again, I like doing dramatic things too, just for those who are new here, of showing my settings to the left versus the manufacturer calibration to the right with something like a movie, so you can kind of see what I'm talking about when I say these colors out of the box are nowhere near optimized, and you are not ever seeing what your TV is truly capable of. Literally ever. All you're seeing is their version of it, I guess, but not actually a really good looking image. I mean, when you look at certain scenes and examples, it does kind of speak for itself. If you want these settings that I'm showcasing and showing off at any time, make sure you always check the TV settings playlist to make sure I've done the work for your TV of choice. And then make sure after you do that, then you go on ahead and apply it after you join. But that out of the way, I'm going to let you guys look at the difference between these two picture qualities while I go get another light so I can try to showcase some more differences. Okay, so we have overhead light, okay? And now on top of overhead light, we're going to have direct lighting, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and kill this, and I'm going to go, again, more direct lighting, light pointing directly at both TVs from overhead. And again, you'll notice the S95F doing a decentish job, I guess, of keeping the picture pretty much the same. There are no raised blacks, okay? So if you were worried about that, I don't think you have any reason to be worried about how the reflection handling is going to handle. As you can clearly see, it's doing its damn thing. It really is. Going from one to the other, it's very clear what's going on here, okay? There's one TV that's just more capable than the other, and that is, unfortunately, the S90D. And I say unfortunate because when you pay $2,500 plus tax, that's absolutely the high-end level. You would expect massive gains in your picture quality. I don't know, by the way, why the other YouTubers that do this job don't tell you things like the black bars are going to be gray. Raise the black levels. They're gray out of the box. Okay? That's inky deep black. It's shut off. You can see it very clearly, and that is not. And this is what you're going to see on the Samsung S95F to the right. Again, we'll open up our menu, and we'll try again. We'll just hit reset, because why not, okay? Filmmaker mode, hit reset, okay? And we hit reset. So, like, if you're not joining my membership for literally $5 to get a better picture, I mean, it's going to be gray black. It's going to be washed out crappy color. I mean, probably could raise it maybe a hair more right here, okay? You're going to be seeing a very non-exciting freaking image. I don't know. Again, this is accurately calibrated as Samsung claims, Pantone validated. They've calibrated it in-house. Okay, well, the reference accuracy in-house calibration versus what I do, there is a big difference. And I try to showcase this not to shake people down or to grift as others have said. I do this to show you, look at his face. I mean, look at, this is what you get for $2,500 versus what I create. Your TV was always capable of looking like that. And if you don't believe me, I'll go into my settings and I'll show you the work I've already done to this TV. And that's what it looks like right there. Okay? It's capable of looking better. Now it's on par. Now I'm seeing contrast that is really looking very impressive, right? And again, I've been sitting with this TV for days, working on it to get it a better picture, trying to pull out as much contrast as I can, okay? Now there are still some differences between these two panels, but at the end of the day, they're a lot closer than they would have been out of the box. Because on the one hand, you have this gorgeous highlight, but it also wraps around with this good contrast and excellent detail that look, the 90D is going to win in terms of raw picture quality and clarity. It's just going to win, right? It's like being crystal clear versus being really HD, I guess is what I would say. Because it's not like 2D or flat after my settings, but it's definitely not 90D level. And that's something you have to keep in mind. Shadows are the one thing, like if you're into gaming, and I have to use this example because it's the only example that I can use that you'll understand. It's basically like having your settings on a PC to ultra versus having them on high if you're a PC gamer. Like these are ultra settings, these are high settings with the way that the image processing works. Post-processing effects on this TV are just stronger and it makes your image just overall look better. Where to the right, it doesn't happen as much and the post-processing effects aren't as aggressive and you lose a lot of the picture quality, especially like post-processing effects like bokeh depth of field, shadows, sharpening, upscaling, all that, whatever you want to call it, it's weaker, right? And that affects the impact. Now again, with my settings, as you can clearly see, you still have a glorious image on the S90D. You have nothing to be angry about or jealous about. You got yourself a stellar set. It does look really good, as you can clearly see in this example. It looks really good. That's with my settings. But if you don't want to use my settings and you want to try using reference accuracy, this is what reference accuracy looks like. That's why I talk so passionately about not using it. Right? Okay, so now let's go on to the next example. For the anime watchers out here, I want to use One Piece, one of the greatest of all time, to show you what it looks like out of the box versus with reflections and all that good stuff. Okay, we saw it with movie type content like Jurassic World, The Forbidden Kingdom, Fallen Kingdom, whatever the hell, okay? Now we're going to see it with One Piece. Out of the box, you can clearly see what the picture quality looks like, okay? I don't know how anyone can justify watching One Piece like this. You are missing every key moment, every amount of hockey explosion, every amount of dramatic effect and flair. You miss it all for this image that looks like it came out of 1990. And if I asked you to pick up a picture from 1990 or go to your local pawn shop and buy a TV, the image would likely look washed out like that before they had more advanced color techniques and quantum dots actually being taken advantage of. And this is why, I mean, look, it's not to bash these guys, okay? Don't misunderstand this. Don't go over to their channel, send them hate or anything like that. I mention and dead name probably 3 YouTubers regularly because they are probably one of the most notorious, okay? Stop the FOMO, Brian's Tech Therapy, and probably like, I don't know, who else would you say? Like maybe Tech Steve. These are the most egregious with just taking TVs out of the box and comparing them or doing these pseudo calibrations that don't actually take into account how the picture will look if you try, right? Because there's no doubt that if you ask probably majority of your country, wherever you're watching this from, would they want an image that looks like the one to the left or the right? They'd probably say they want the image to the left because it's just more impactful. And that's the thing. The impact is just lost out of the box with these reference accurate settings, and they always have been, as you can clearly see. That tells you everything. You have none of the pink in the sky, none of the ambiance, nothing, right? With my settings, you do though, right? So there's the before, There's the after right there. It's a totally different TV now. I'm not even joking. Like, now it can actually hold some sort of candle to what we have. It still lacks in contrast and clarity, but color-wise, it's getting on par, more or less, with what I've found on the Samsung S90D. The 90D, though, with that clarity and contrast is like next level. It's monster tier for sure. It's just the 95F is just too bright. Overly bright is the one thing I would say. And you pick it up in little details. Like here, Shank's scars at the bottom, and this is just overly bright. And you can see like shadows aren't as dark as they should be. Again, like I was telling you, post-processing effects affect things like, again, the mouth, like the shadow here, the mustache. And with drawn things, which is how I picked this up very quickly. For anybody wondering, how does Quantum always pick this up almost immediately? I'm an anime fan, a massive anime fan. Well, the thing about anime is it's drawn. And because it's drawn or, you know, rendered in a way where you really are reliant on contrast to give you a certain level of impact, I see that impact immediately or not. And that's the thing that I noticed with the S95F. The impact is just not there when you have default settings. And don't take my word for it. There you go. What anime would you rather watch? The one to the right or the one to the left is ultimately your choice, I guess. But I don't know. I would easily pick the image to the left because that's, come on, I could see Lucy's skin tone right here. It just looks so much better. You can see the highlights in the eyes and everything. And on the right, it's just dead. It feels 30 years old, that image. But that's why I say don't calibrate to 30-year-old reference standards if you put, you know, upwards of supposedly, you know, 4,000 nits of peak brightness and quantum dots and a OLED making it a true RGB display. I mean, because let's be real, we have manufacturers like Hisense and Sony hyping up mini LED doing the same thing QD OLED does on the market right now. These are true RGB panels. So I don't know why they don't take advantage of that more. I don't know. People are kind of weird in that business. But I can tell you, you can see it for yourself. I mean, you can see lack of color versus having color. And that's, I mean, look, as an anime fan, I'm never going to watch One Piece looking washed out like that and enjoy it. It's just not going to happen. I want to see Luffy in this scene absolutely wrecking this guy, right? Look at the skin tones. I mean, this is accurate, reference accurate information, right? How the so-called director intended, and this is what I do. This is why I say things like I'm the world's greatest calibrator, because I can actually give you the right shade of yellow in a cheetah, and reference accuracy makes it greenish yellow. That is not the director's intent, because I've seen a leopard before, and leopards are not yellow, like a highlighter yellow, like a greenish yellow. They are a rich golden, brownish yellow. It's very beautiful, right? It's self-explanatory, it's common sense. So one would ask, okay, well, Quantum, what does it look like with your settings? Okay, I'll go ahead and show you that now, right? And there you go. This is what it looks like with my work. Big difference. You can actually see that golden, yellowish brown come back. And again, the thing I like to tell everybody in all of my videos, I am not a magician, right? I cannot put color there in the metadata that isn't there. So if you're seeing it golden brown, if you're seeing more details, it was always there. It's just the calibrations that the people that run these things, these forums, whatever you watch, it just is not there for them because they calibrate to 30-year-old metrics. And the best example of this I could show you is you could see the yellowish brown here, okay? But if you turn off my settings, you don't use my settings, and you go into Filmmaker mode, this is what you're gonna get, okay? Ta-da! I don't know anybody that likes to watch anime like that. I know for a fact One Piece fans have seen the clash of Conqueror's Haki, okay? And when Conqueror's Haki clashes, what is the predominant color? What is the predominant color of the Supreme Kings? Red. Black. Very strong red. Very strong auras around them as they clash. That's a dead giveaway that you are not seeing the director's intent here when you get all this faint bullshit. And that's why I have such a problem with the so-called industry standard. This picture, for example, is a day and night for me personally. I can clearly see everything I would ever want out of an anime, and over here it literally is 30 years old, even though the anime could be so much better. Enter my settings from that before to this after, and well, you start to see a different look right about here, okay? Don't take my word for it. Look at it. I mean, now we see where there are some elements of the 95F that start pulling ahead of the 90D. And particularly, it's in the overall global brightness or full screen, right? The global panel brightness. You can see it clearly. But then what I was telling you before, that detail, the post-processing of the shadows and everything around the neck and everything, the clarity is going to be better than that. And that's what we are ultimately seeing here. I mean, around the jawline, you can see all the details in the mouth and everything, and that's just over-brightened. And that's the sacrifice this year that you have to make. Now, that ultimately means if you're one of those people that don't really like super detailed 3D images, you just, for whatever reason, it just isn't for you, then guess what? You're never going to like the S90D because it's a three-dimensional TV without 3D glasses. It draws you in. If you don't like that, you don't like that quotation mark feeling like you're on the set kind of atmosphere, kind of vibe, you like something a little bit more two-dimensional, a little bit more flat, then of course you're going to gravitate towards something like the Samsung S95D or S95F because it just gives you that feeling. And again, turning off my settings and going back to something more reference accurate, like the Filmmaker mode calibration that Samsung has done in-house, you can clearly see there are some key differences here. I don't know what you'll see or how it'll be interpreted on YouTube, but I can tell you this. There's so much color loss. I'm not even joking on the Samsung S95F out of the box. I don't know how anybody could ever recommend watching TV that way. That's a personal thing perhaps, but I go through all of these different scenarios and all of these different scenes because I watch anime, as I've said multiple times in this video, because when you see a moment like this, Zoro charging up his color of the Supreme Kings, he's got his yellow aura, his golden yellow aura around him, you want to see that. You don't want to see highlighter yellow in that moment because it just looks pissy and like seasick, right? You want to see a scene like this where you have Killer getting ready to go at, his opponent with all of the beautiful rich cyans that we have in this example versus everything that's muted. And look, there are people that like subtlety of color, but subtlety of color is not correct. The world is not subtle with color. And when people make animes, they don't make them to be washed out, dingy, ugly. They make them so that you can see moments like this when Luffy is using his hockey power of Rio, however you say it, right? You can clearly feel that moment of all those rich, beautiful oranges that wrap around his fist, and over here it's highlighter yellow. That's not accurate, and it would ruin the scene and the moment for everybody. So I challenge director's intent because you don't arrive at director's intent by just turning off every post-processing effect and saying, there we go, we're at director's intent, because look at the difference in the picture that you'd get ultimately. I mean, it's a day and night between the amount of color to non-color that you'd have. I mean, look at the shade of pink versus whatever that's supposed to be. And it's one of these beautiful scenes where you have these beautiful glowing flowers that come down and this really awesome moment right before some epic crap happens. As you can clearly see, I mean, which picture would you want to watch for the scene? The one with the beautiful golden rich aura with the popping cherry blossom colors all across your screen, feeling that moment? Or would you want that? I mean, it's like buying a shitty LCD IPS panel. I don't get it. And again, we'll go back ahead, turn on some overhead lighting to see if that gets better, and it doesn't. You still feel the moment every bit as much as you do on the Samsung S95 or S90D to the left, right, versus the S95F to the right. Again, with the default settings, with the quotation mark reference accurate settings, and I'm showing this at length because it needs to be shown. I promise you this is what you're going to get out of the box, and no YouTuber will ever say these words. Out of the box picture quality is awful. You need better, because turn off the overhead, okay? If you don't have that, we're going to get the direct lit, by the way, right in front of the TV, right? Bam. So you can see the matte finish with direct lighting. You can see the gloss with direct lighting. Direct lighting does not hurt these TVs. I mean, I hear it all the time. People say, oh, well, glossy is better because direct lighting raises the black levels or whatever. The black levels are raised in a dark room, as I showed you with that Jurassic World example. The problem is a lack of processing, a lack of refinement on the chipset, giving you those deep blacks where they belong. For the sake of giving you those deep blacks where they belong, in this example, I'll open up my camera sensitivity to light, also known as ISO. And the first thing you're going to notice is the TV that starts presenting the gray or black is going to immediately be this one. These areas are just not turned off. That is turned off. It actually feels pixel level illuminated. Again, if somebody's in a dark room like this, though, and they keep their ISO low, they're both going to look like OLEDs. They're both going to look amazing. And that's the problem, too. There's a lot of transparency involved with this job. You have to be very honest with your viewers between the highlighter yellow you're seeing and the lack of color versus the rich golden yellow and beautiful ruby reds and everything that you're going to get on a more premium set. Again, it's not to say that the S95F isn't a premium set, and it's not to say that it can't do that, right? Because here we go. We'll go into a different example, okay? And we're going to go to my settings and show you. It has even more of those beautiful primary colors. Now we've gotten to a point where, in my opinion, color exceeds anything the S90D is doing. Because now this is even more of a rich golden color, even more of rich ruby. And I'm seeing beautiful brightness and highlights. And in this particular example, I'd give the win to the S95F. But again, it is one of those things where it's not totally consistent across the board, but you get the idea. These TVs are capable of so much more. And you can't just simply narrow it down to matte versus glossy being a conversation of, well, if you hit it with direct light, let's see how your cutie OLED will do. Because again, if I'm in a room with lights, okay, lights on, it doesn't make a difference, honestly. If anything, if I'm being 100%, I think the picture improves with the addition of light because of this thing called light science and color science and all that stuff. And so how that basically works is, okay, for example, if I have a tungsten light in my room, which most people do, it's an overhead light, right? That is orange in nature, right? I'm going to zoom out a little bit. Okay, so if I have that kind of light, and with that kind of light, it casts down this yellowish kind of casting onto a screen, it's going to affect the colors that are already on the screen. Because, again, light mixing is a thing, and light pollution is a thing, which is why movie theaters, for example, never use blue lights or cool lights. They always use warm lights because they don't want it to negatively affect their D65 calibration within a movie theater studio. Again, this is advanced color theory, advanced home theater science that you don't need to know per se, but it's ideal to know. The moral of the story is always use warm lights when you're watching a TV. Never use the blue cool ones. I mean, basic stuff, you know what I mean? But at the same token, it doesn't have that much of an impact because if I turn off the light, the picture still looks good. It's not like it was, oh my gosh, it got worse or better. You know what I mean? To a point where these are things you'll notice to a tangible level. The only thing, and this is why I'm making this video, the only thing, hear me on this, that will make a difference in your video, in your content, in your movies, are your settings. Because out of the box, this is what it looks like. And if your TV is showing you gray black or raised black, it's probably because you're not using every feature to get the most out of that panel, because as you see, the hair now looks gray black from before where it was inky jet black. I mean, these are the little things, like the background here gets more gray compared to this where it's inky deep black because you're washing out the picture. You're making it. Let me explain this, okay? When you go for a so-called reference look, the goal of that picture is to flatten everything. Because when you start from flat values, it's like audio EQing, okay? You always start at flat values and you never want to go too crazy so you don't blow speakers and all that other stuff. Well, the same thing kind of holds through when we talk about picture quality. You start at a flat base, and from there, you can see a lot of detail. Typically, when you have no color, no contrast, no clarity of any kind, you can see details come up a lot more when you have no real saturation, because black levels introduce, again, a loss of some information, while again brightening it up will reveal said information. And again, everybody feels like there's a right or wrong answer here. There is really no right or wrong answer. I can't, well, again, while I don't agree with it, you're not wrong if you take your TV out of the box and you want to watch Filmmaker mode and you want to see everything all washed out. You're not wrong if you look at that and you say, I don't like all those colors. Too vibrant for me. I love subdued, muted, washed out, pukey colors. You're not wrong. But it's one of those things where, again, if we're talking about realism, that's where it would be what we would say inaccurate, because that is nowhere near a director's intent, because they made the content with all of these beautiful colors, right? And the TV in question, the S95F, has all of those beautiful colors, more or less, right? Because if you put in the right settings, you get that back, right? And if you notice, look how beautiful it is now. The colors are popping. It's a very beautiful, warm picture, but you just don't have that same level of contrast and clarity that you do on the 90D. And again, if you watch anime and you use anime, you're going to notice this instantly, right? You're going to be like, well, I just was watching Cowboy Bebop the other day, and now today I'm noticing like this same scene that had all that three-dimensional contrast is gone on the brand new TV I just bought for $2,500 plus tax. What the hell happened? It's not that anything happened outside of the fact that they are not using those effects as readily because of your favorite YouTubers, hence why I dead name Stop the FOMO and Brian's Tech Therapy almost daily in all of my videos, because they are the ones doing it. They are the apologists. They are the gassers. The ones that will gas up a mediocre picture with no color at all and truly make you believe you are watching something worth your time. I don't know how they pull it off. I mean, they're the world's greatest con men in that regard, because you can't sell out-of-the-box picture quality as pinnacle picture quality. Everybody's got to watch it picture quality if you've not done the work. And again, I asked this question before, and I keep asking it. No one's been able to answer it, but maybe for the first time in history in my video, at the end of it, if you've watched this far, maybe someone will be able to answer this question. How can they call themselves professionals or experts or people in the know with TVs at all, giving advice about them, if they've never given you settings on how to make your TVs look better? As far as I understand, artings.com and myself are the only sources that actually give you settings. Arting settings, by the way, don't hold a candle to mine either, and I'm the only one out of everyone that I've seen that actually gives you settings that make a significant and substantial improvement in image and picture quality all around. And if these are your so-called experts, why can they not do it? They've got a lot of words about why you should watch in filmmaker mode and director's intent and what looks nice and what looks good and preferences. And they're just guys talking about their preference as a hobby. You can do it too. I promise you, buy any TV, take it out of the box, do no work to it, and just compare two TVs. You'll get a following within, like, I'd say a month. It's not hard to do. You could be the next Brian's Tech Therapy or Stop the FOMO if that's all you're doing. You can go on the news of all the stuff on Tech Radar and other companies and just regurgitate what you read in tandem with giving an opinion of reviewing these TVs out of the box, and you get a following the same way. All you got to do is be remotely bubbly, stay away from any negative controversy, and always say what people want to hear, and you'll have a following. If you guys want game, I just put you on to how to make money for yourself as a little side hustle. Go for it. For all you guys with some extra money lying around your house, you know, you got some AV equipment, talk about it. Do what they do. They're not doing anything special. And hear this, you'll get a following like nothing, just like I said, but you still won't be an expert. To be an expert means you have to know a little something more than I took it out of the box. Or I heard this from somebody else, or I watched this person calibrate this, you know what I mean? Or I tinker with that or this. You have to know the ins and outs of a picture. Because if you go even with the reference accuracy that's been around for over 30 years, this is what it looks like. You've got to know a lot about TVs to get it to stop looking like that. Look at the skin tones. Look at the icy chill across your picture. This is the stuff I try to stop. This is the stuff my information aims to quell, quench, end. And that's why I do this so passionately, because there are so many people buying bullshit TVs when they could have maybe bought, let's say, even a $700 TV and wound up with a better picture because, you know, that's what it is in a lot of cases. But you got so many Brian's Tech Therapies out there that believe that, oh, well, you get what you pay for type of deal in some instances, or they'll shill for Sony and their mediocrity this year, not even being able to beat the A95L and then getting pissed off at their viewers and kind of just smack talking on a live stream about the fact that people see it for what it is and call a spade a spade. I mean, I don't understand this new wave or this new generation of everything is awesome, say nothing bad about anybody else, we want to be sensitive to all of our feelings. Stop it. You're a grown-ass man, grown-ass woman if you run your channel, right? Be you in the real world with your audience, if you can still do that, if money hasn't clouded your judgment. Because I could tell you, you ask almost anybody what image you would want, the image to the left or the right, most people will say, I want the image to the right. It's very clear which one produces superior picture quality. There are no two ways about it. You can't argue it. Reference accuracy will never touch anything that I've ever had to offer and ever will offer, because I'm that guy that goes and puts time in while everybody else is sleeping to get a better picture. And that's why you can officially kill this conversation about the matte finish screen on the Samsung S95F just being the reason the contrast is so much weaker, because I'm showing you with the proper setup, the proper settings, it can be so much more than it ever was. It's laziness. Now, don't get me wrong. There's a good amount of contrast that you do lose because of the lack of picture processing they chose to put in this display. But you can clearly see that this image to the left, while legendary, this image to the right is close. And if you're smart, you can do a little bit extra, right? You can go into things like contrast, for example. I have mine at 16. You can lower that down to the number I told you to lower it to, which is 6 or 7. I like 6 because you have more contrast, right? And now, if you look at the images again, you can see a wealth of contrast. A wealth of it, because this TV's problem is that it's too bright, which is how I ascertain that it's a post-processing problem, right? And you can go through and see, while no, it will never arrive quite at the level of the S90D. I mean, come on, look at that contrast. Look at the contrast. This is gorgeous. It still will get pretty freaking close, and way, way, way closer than what we had before. Because again, if you look at this scene again, and you know, I'll go to some of the later examples that I had here, just so we can be ultra thorough, so we're not doing repeats, because, you know, we always want to keep the content moving, okay? You'll see what I mean when I say it looks a lot better, okay? So I'll go here. I was already there. Let's go, what do you say, right about here. We're about done with the reel, right? Right about here. You see how much closer the image quality looks to a stellar picture quality versus where it started? And again, we have no direct light. I'll give you that, okay? So what I'll do is I'll turn on a light. Boop. There we go, light on. It's still washed out, it's still ugly. And you know what? It was in a dark room that it looked like that, and in a bright room. And what we're gonna do now is we're gonna go into Filmmaker mode, and we're gonna turn on my calibration setting. And there you go. You see what I mean? Now you see a lot more depth and immersion, because this is not, hear me, a limitation of your coding. This is a limitation based on settings. Hopefully this video showed you that in real time with the direct comparisons. Again, we're in a bright room, and it still is not going to be better in every way if you don't have the right setup and settings. So if you want my settings, make sure you join for $5. But as always, I want to thank you guys for watching the #1 brand in honesty. Again, your TVs are way better than these YouTubers are telling you. And if you want to see that, make sure you stop on by. Until the next video, I'll see you guys later.